I was supposed to be presenting with Eugene Owen, who's the project lead for PIAAC at the Department of Education, and is really the father of PIAAC in the United States. But Eugene had an accident last week and is recovering and is joining us remotely. So he's listening in, and I'm guessing I'll get texts during the presentation, so you may hear from him. And I also wanted to really thank Jaleh and her team and Sandra and everybody who helped in putting together this conference, because it's really a great and important conference. Peggy yesterday talked about how important this kind of work was. Eugene describes it as making a living data set through the use. And so that means also thanks very, very much to the authors and to everybody who reviewed papers and made this possible, because I think this is a really important work. And the data really don't mean anything until somebody digs into them and uses them and informs policy and practice. But what I was going to talk about was the future. And so I wanted to first, developments in research tools. And so NCES has what's called a PIAAC Data Explorer, and this is the link you'll see there. And in the next several months, we plan to add some functionality to the Explorer. And that means regression analysis, which would allow people to look at correlations between independent variables and dependent variables in a kind of multivariate way, and an analysis of gaps between subgroups. This would allow you in the United States, anyways, to look at not just average scores of this subgroup compared with that subgroup, but actually the gap between them. It's a subtle difference, but it allows you to do statistical testing on the differences between groups. And this data tool before that did not allow you to do that. And finally, and this is the thing I'm most excited about and is sort of hard to explain, is you'll be able to select on proficiency groups in order to do kind of profiling of them. As it is now, what you can do is you can say, what percentage of men are low performing? What percentage of women are low performing? This will allow you to say what percentage of low performing people are women and what percentage of low performing people are men. Okay? So I think really a neat flip, allowing you to kind of profile proficiency groups in a way that we haven't been able to do beforehand, at least in a kind of clickable online way. So we're really excited about this development. And I say this as something that you would use, but it's also something that we use in our office. And so if you find yourself wanting to know these kinds of questions or the answers to these sorts of questions, you can contact us and we can turn something around really quickly for you by using this tool ourselves. Or, of course, you can use the tool yourselves if you can. And then the other thing is Education Skills Online, and this is an online tool that allow individuals to walk up to a computer and obtain what's really on a test of their skills that's on the PIAAC scale. So we're really excited about this. We've been excited about this for a long time, and every time that we report it, we say it's coming out in a few months. And so I'm saying it's coming out in a few months. And so we'll be back again in a few months probably to report the same. Can we go to the next? And then I think this next slide is going to be about data collection efforts that we have planned.
Predicting.
That's what I'm doing, predicting now. Okay. So in 2013 and 14, we just returned from the field. We did additional sample to add to the sample that we drew in 11 and 12. And this additional sample has included oversamples of unemployed adults 16 to 65, young adults 16 to 34, and includes a sample of older adults 66 to 74. I think yesterday the question was, older means 15 years older than you are. So I'm 51, and these are the 66 to 74-year-olds, so we're getting older adults. And we're also doing a prison sample. Those data should be available, or the results should be available at the end of 2015 or possibly into 2016. And then we're talking internally about an additional small sample that might happen in 2017. We don't know for sure that we'll do it or when. And here are a couple of questions we have for you. Would be better to focus on, say, an update to national results, sample in a way that would give us a comparison between 2017 and 2012 at the national level, or better to sample in a way that would supplement the earlier data and allow kind of deeper analysis geographically, going down below the state level to local levels, hopefully. And here are upcoming, I waited there for a second because I was surprised to see that it came up so fast. So the upcoming NCES and OECD reports will be reissuing the first look that had the 11 and 12 data updated with the newest data. We'll have results from the prison population, and we'll have a report on young adults. And these should come out either the end of 2015 or in 2016. The OECD also, of course, is really busy on reports, doing a lot of what they call thematic reports, and this is more in-depth studies of specific topics. And so on the plans right now are a trends study looking back to IELTS and all, and a system-level causes and consequences of field of study mismatch. What field of study mismatch means that you studied one thing in college and are doing another thing in the job. And managing information in technology-rich environment. This is more information on the problems, people have been calling it post-stray. This is a deeper look at post-stray. And the effects of vocational education on adult skills and wages, and a study of skills and wage inequality. And there will be more studies coming after these from the OECD. And then the other thing that we're talking about internationally is what to do in 2022. And so now is the time to seek people like me out with your suggestions for what we do in 2022. We'll be meeting next week as a board in Paris to discuss. And so these are things that are kind of floating around. One is a different conception of problem solving, one that doesn't require computer administration, perhaps, for instance. It's come up a couple times during the day today about what to make of the post-stray results, because there were people who didn't take it because they weren't either able to do the computer or they felt uncomfortable doing the computer. And that percentage of the population wasn't tiny. It was small but not tiny. And you didn't get information about their problem solving at all. Because they weren't assessed in any way. So there's talk of trying to do something to get more about that. I want to remind you that the assessment that we have on post-stray is handy for what it is. For the people that were assessed, we learned a lot about their information management and processing and how they are able to find and manage information manipulated online. And then there's talk of, and I don't think that this is serious talk, but talk of combining the literacy and numeracy domain. And this is talk that's really coming from the OECD, and I haven't heard it from countries. I see shaking heads on that one. An improved background questionnaire. Of course, everybody wants an improved background questionnaire, but what's the direction to go? Do we add topics? Do we do more scales? What we're hearing internationally from people who have been looking at the background questionnaire is that they're interested in more scale kind of questions. So this would mean maybe asking more questions about a specific topic in order to be able to develop scales, rather than asking just a couple of questions about a lot of topics. That people were finding it hard to use the background questionnaire data because it wasn't set up in a way that really facilitated secondary analysis. Not that we haven't seen some really great secondary analysis, but I'm guessing that everybody who was doing it had some frustrations in what they were doing. Certainly we heard in the last session, or I at least heard at my table, some interest in additional health or health literacy questions. I'll say that a lot of these things came up in the development of the first round, and for all of the items that made it onto the background question, there were a lot of other items that didn't make it through the field test or didn't make it through piloting, and that's because it's really hard to ask questions that are meaningful in an international context, that are comparable across contexts. So it's hard work. We're interested in what topics people are interested in and whether they're interested in kind of scales versus, individual questions. And then there's a lot of talk about measurement of 21st century skills. And so whether we'll still be talking about 21st century skills in 2022 or not, I'm not sure. I think we probably will be. I think that people are interested in these kind of characteristics of people that are unobserved right now, in a way, at least on these large-scale assessments. And then the other thing that we're talking about, and this is really by we, I mean just really me, and that is rolling data collection. And this would be doing the data collection kind of more in a way that's like the census does, in which you're kind of always collecting data. You may not have results to share every year, but you would have kind of a rolling collection that would accumulate up into something you could report more often than once every 10 years. From a bureaucrat standpoint, it's handy because it means we don't have to, we can have a steady funding stream that we're spending in a steady way. And we think from an information standpoint that it's really helpful for people too, because it means information more often, and what we're hearing is that people are wanting that. And those are the last of my comments, and they're really, as you can see, a lot of them are questions, so I'd be interested in kind of what direction people give me to take back. Thanks.